Today, I am continuing on with interesting finds that I have come across while scrolling through Reddit related to finance. In today's video, I'm going to be taking us through some posts which discuss some of the worst financial advice people have ever been given. And the intention of today's video is to showcase why it pays to educate yourself on the topic of personal finance and to make fun of some of the silly ideas that people have had. Let's get straight into it. One of my uncles told me that I never really had to pay my phone bill. He suggested that I simply jump to another carrier and let the first company cut you off. They will chase you for the money, and once you do it enough times, you go on a record. There's a way that these companies can actually track your history, your phone history, whatever it is. I know there's a register. They do a check to make sure that you haven't defaulted on payments before jumping to another phone carrier. They won't just absorb that bill. Stupid advice. Good way to start though. Just get another credit card. My friend who hasn't worked in 3 years and is currently just vibing with his new credit cards he somehow got approved for. That is going to be the worst advice on here. Surely that is probably the one that will set you up for failure most, depending on the limits. If there's small limit credit cards, I don't know why you'd have them, because realistically, you're not going to be able to do much with $1,000 over the course of months. Story time. I knew someone, hopefully they aren't watching this. I know someone who went to Mexico for about 10 weeks on a holiday. It was a holiday. It was an absolute bender. And I remember them taking 3 credit cards with them. I'm not going to even say the gender because I hope they aren't watching this. And I remember them telling me they maxed out 3 credit cards. I saw them not that long ago, maybe a year ago, and they are still paying them off. They went to Mexico over 10 years ago. Terrible advice. Credit card and debt and people who are impulsive, not good mixes. Once you cut up the credit card, you don't have to pay it. My cousin is not doing so hot. I'm pretty sure there are warrants out for his arrest in several states. I just don't understand how someone can't read about what they're getting themselves into. These companies are so predatory because they can literally get you to sign up with a wow factor item, whether it be a bunch of points for some airline, not so great while we're in a pandemic. Just the way that they get people to sign up without even having any understanding of what they're doing. If you think something, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it works. Like, you have to have some kind of understanding. There should be a test for people to, I feel like this is going to be very credit card orientated, but I'm okay with that. I like laughing at people's stupidity, and that one is almost as worse as the last one. My father would tell me to max my credit card on a new car, and if they ask for payments, just say, stuff them. What are they going to do? My father is several levels of debt held deep that he's trying to get out of now, but he's at least trying. At least trying is like a cop out for, oh my God, my life is miserable. That is the prime example of my friend who went to Mexico. And it sounds like this guy's not having a good time either. Moving on, credit cards. Bad, bad, bad. This should send a message to you. I'm sure there'll be other examples, but that's 3 credit cards in a row. Holy crap. These Beanie Babies are an investment for our future. Look, I can't tell if that's satire. Back then, Beanie Babies were the thing. They were the collectible, and collectibles have appreciated significantly depending on them. I collect Pokemon cards, and I know that they have gone up in value significantly, multiple times what I paid for them when I originally bought them. I would say somewhere in the realm of between, I don't even want to put the number out there. It's a lot of money. We're talking well above the tens of thousands of dollar mark, potentially into the hundreds of thousands of dollar mark, depending on if I could find a buyer. So Beanie Babies are an investment for our future. Look, it probably wouldn't have cost them that much money depending on how many they bought. It's not the worst. It is quite funny to look back though and laugh at how that panned out. If you're not familiar, I highly encourage Googling it. You'll probably get a laugh out of it. There's one photo in particular, I'll see if I can pull it up, of a couple who are getting divorced and they're splitting their Beanie Baby collection because they thought that it was going to basically allow them to retire in the future. Spend it quickly or it will get stolen. Coming from someone who has a history of losing and blowing their money. Probably someone who's struggling to get by. There's nothing necessarily wrong with living your life like that if that's how you want to live it, but what we preach here on this channel is a little different, and it's terrible advice because there are ways to secure your money. Yes, it could get stolen. There are ways to make sure that it doesn't. That an emergency fund wasn't necessary when you can always get a payday loan or use your credit card. He wasn't joking. Technically true, like realistically, you can do that, but the ramifications with doing that are going to hurt you in the long run. Having an emergency fund takes away the stress, whereas taking out a loan because you don't have money, look at the comment below, anxiety, anxiety, anxiety. It's exactly why I preach what I preach. It just makes sense to actually pay attention to learning finance. It's going to give me anxiety reading people's terrible stories. This is like the worst of the worst. Like, these are the types of things you would expect to see with people who just basically their lives implode. Fascinating how someone can have that mindset. Don't take a pay raise if it puts you into the next tax bracket. I'm not even going to read the rest of that comment. I don't care whatever's in that. That one I have actually heard of. I know people who have actually done that, and that is the biggest face slap you will ever see. Paying more tax or being pushed into a higher tax bracket is a good thing. If you don't have a good understanding of how tax brackets work, which I'm sure anyone watching videos like this would have a concept, definitely go and watch a video if you don't. That is infuriating. I could not imagine someone being that stupid thinking that they're going to end up paying more tax in a higher tax bracket. These people that I've read this before, and I've known some people to be in the same boat. They have a feeling that, or they believe that when they get pushed into a new tax bracket, all of their income falls into that tax bracket, when in actual fact, it scales. It's a tier system. As you earn more, you move into higher brackets and only pay more tax in that tier. I don't want to get into it because this isn't a discussion about how tax works. I don't know how to weigh this up. Like, I think credit card debt and like personal loans is the worst so far, but like, that's just terrible. My father-in-law, when I mentioned our retirement plan, I never contribute to my retirement account. Money now is always better than money later. I needed to have a conversation with my husband how we would not be supporting his mum and dad and their insane spending when they have no retirement plan and make huge financial mistakes on a weekly basis. This is an interesting one because I do believe that money now is better than money later. Saving for the future sucks because what if you don't make it to the future? What if your plans change? What if you get divorced and lose half? All of these things that could come into play. It is a risk. It is the risk of life. The other concern, or the main concern here, is if the mum and dad expect the kids to pay for them, when in reality they'd have no jurisdiction because realistically you wouldn't be living anywhere near them, hopefully once you're a bit older, and you'd be living your days out with them probably crying on your shoulder or calling you for money, but you could easily brush them off. That sounds kind of like I don't have a heart, but the main thing here is that if they have that expectation, you can avoid that obligation altogether because it's not an obligation, you can just not do it. But the main thing here is that I don't necessarily disagree that money now is better than money in the future. It's just you want to use your money wisely. You want to make good decisions with it now to build your wealth greater than it could build in the future. Not necessarily all for retirement, but potentially thinking about your future a little bit when you're younger is something that's absolutely worth considering. From an elderly relative when I was about 12 or 13, don't study too hard and do too well in your studies because no man likes a woman to be smarter than him. Marry well and your husband will look after you. Yeah, nah, the world has changed. That's an easy one. Terrible advice. Absolutely. Pave your own path, make your own way as best you can. Obviously, everyone's situation is different, but yeah, nah. Off the plan apartments to get my foot in the ladder of the housing market. I've made a video about cookie cutter off the plan homes. It's me holding a knife with cookies in the thumbnail. Highly recommend watching it if you're someone in this boat trying to make this decision. Completely agree with it. I'm not going to say any more. It's described in the video. Buy a house. All of my work colleagues were middle-aged men in cardigans telling 20-year-old single mum me to get a foot on the property ladder. I was earning less than half of their wages, no child support coming in either. All I could afford to do was buy a shit box in 1970 in a shit suburb, but it was all about getting in, and it was right at the peak of the boom. This is in Western Australia. About 6 years later of 10% interest rates, which back then that would have been very high, council rates, repairs, I found the point in the market where I could break even on price, and after agents fees, I ultimately sold for a loss. The truth was I couldn't afford the mortgage, and I reckon I'd be about 100K better off if I hadn't followed their advice. This one is heartbreaking because in Australia, everyone is so fixated on making money through property, owning property, earning more properties. It's kind of a pandemic here, and I'm sure that other people around the rest of the world would be able to resonate to some degree. This is a good example of when knowing your limits, knowing how you can progress in life without owning a home, because you don't have to buy a house. It's just something that a lot of people aim to achieve. In this instance, if she understood her financial position better, no shade on her, understood that like you might not have been financially educated at the time, it would have been a rocky situation depending on, you're a single mom, you want to have a roof over your head without having to rent, makes sense. People would have pushed and prodded to get her to do that. But this is an interesting one because it's not really bad financial advice. These people were probably trying to help her. They probably had the right mindset, but not the understanding of her position. So this is where you really need to weigh up your options and actually make an appropriate decision, not just one based on impulse or peer pressure. It's so easy to make money day trading, but don't buy an ETF. A friend that has now lost $70,000 to day trading. I keep watching videos about day trading and it's definitely catching my interest. I want to do it, but I know that if I start, it will be an endless loop of me potentially losing money. It's the type of risk that I'm not willing to take. I am pretty risk savvy. I know the pitfalls that people have fallen into. If you have any time, go have ever scroll through Wall Street Bets on Reddit. I'm sure you won't be disappointed in some of the people's losses. It's pretty sad. Nonetheless, I understand why people want to learn how to do this or try to do this. Just the advice of not investing into ETFs. Look, if you'd done it over the past 30 years, you would be sitting pretty comfortably right now, even if it was 70K into ETFs over the last 30 years. Bad advice. Definitely consider investing into ETFs, especially if you're someone who's not willing to study the market consistently every single day, which is something I don't even have time to do. Just put your money in a savings account. Terrible advice today. The reason is that it just collects dust. In 1970, when interest rates were 10+%, absolutely put your money in a savings account. You're gonna make big money by saving over the period of time. Compound interest would absolutely take effect, and having that money there would be pretty secure in a bank account compared to something more risky like shares, property even, and cryptocurrency. However, today, having your money in a savings account just doesn't make sense. Inflation is growing much faster than your money is. An example, house prices in Sydney in the month of recording this video went up $1,300 per day. I don't know many people that can save in excess of $1,300 a day, let alone $1,300 per pay period. It's a good one because it's bad advice, even though it sounds like it's good advice. So far, I have gone through 2 separate threads which were posted in the last 12 months. It was interesting to see what people had to say. Now I'm going to do a quick deep dive because I found a post asking the same question on Reddit from 7 years ago. Let's see how they compare. I was told by a public university here in, I think that's New Jersey, NJ, I'm not sure where that is, I shouldn't try to pay for my tuition in full and instead sign up for money loans with the highest interest rate so I can see the value of my education. Needless to say, I didn't listen to that bullshit. Okay, cool. He didn't listen to the advice. Good. Loans are bad, period. Loans are bad. Even home loans, they're bad. All debt is bad, period. That would be the worst possible advice you could possibly take. Makes sense from the financial department because they make money from you in the form of interest. Who's the party that's going to be making the money? I made a video talking about how to source credible information and make informed decisions. I highly recommend you watch it. You'd probably get some value out of watching it. Definitely subscribe to the channel. Leave a like down below so you don't miss out on any of the videos I bring out related to topics like this, because this one here, you need to understand the motive of the financial department and why they would be giving this person this absolutely shocking advice. Great advice for them. It makes them money. Terrible advice for him, it would set him up for failure because he would be paying that debt back for a very, very long time. Buy a new car, even better. Take a lease instead of buying it because it's cheaper. Yep, it is technically cheaper, but it's not in the long run. It is not once you pay it off. I know another person recently took out a car loan. Not going to say how much. The interest rate is relatively high. They have already paid in excess of what they would have paid to buy it brand new. They were in the position to buy it brand new. And for what? They didn't use the money that they had sitting there ready to buy a brand new car wisely by investing it. They just blatantly chose to do what the car salesman said. Not good advice. Don't take advice from the people with the motives to make money. I was talked out of buying stock in Google when they did their IPO. My $2,000 investment would have been worth $20,000 in August of 2013. That didn't age well, or it technically did age well. Well, Google aged well. If you look at the chart and see what it looked like from 2013 up until today, he would have been worth significantly more, somewhere in the realm of 100 to 150K for his initial $2,000 investment. Wow. I love how the future can show us things that happened to people in the past. Feeling that you put $2,000 in and it being worth 20 grand wouldn't be too bad, like missing out on that opportunity. Imagine putting $2,000 in and it being worth 150K. Wow. Mom told me I shouldn't be saving money at my age and should go out and spend it and enjoy my youth. Then I lent her £1,000, still had enough to go on a holiday. Goes to show, if you put your money away in a way that allows you to still enjoy your life, you can do things like lend your mom $1,000 if you had to and still have enough to go on a holiday. Could probably go on the holiday and still have enough to go on a holiday. Over time, it just becomes second nature. That's why I preach it on this channel. That's a good one. Bad advice, because you should still save your money, even though there are different ways to save it. Just some people just don't have that understanding, and that's why it's important to educate yourself about it. There wasn't too much on this thread. It was an Ask Reddit, not necessarily asking on a finance subreddit. It was interesting nonetheless. The Google one really kind of got me there. It caught me off guard because I'm kind of in that situation now where I've invested in some cryptocurrencies which have appreciated quite nicely. So I'm the guy who didn't invest in Google, but I did invest in the cryptocurrency and it's grown, and I'm very happy with the money that it's grown to. But if you keep looking ahead in literally 8 years difference, it multiplied again by 10. So if my investment multiplied by 10, I'd be in the territory of probably being able to not ever have to work another day in my life. I am probably going to hold it for a lot longer than I currently am. It's just very, very interesting to see how something could have played out and it didn't work out for him. I wonder if it will work out for me. Time will tell. I have left links down in the description below to all of the posts that I've discussed today in case you wanted to have a read through in your own time, or maybe show it to someone who potentially has a pretty silly idea surrounding finance that might need to be shut down. There were a lot of terrible suggestions which came from these posts today, so bringing them to light in one consolidated location was a pretty good way to represent just how many people think they are giving good advice when in actual fact what they are preaching is hot garbage. And with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. It was a bit of fun to put together, so if you enjoyed it, definitely hit that like and subscribe button down below. Make sure you turn on bell notifications so you don't miss any of the videos I bring out over the next however many years I continue to do this. And with that being said, I'll leave you there. Have a good day, have a good week, and I will see you in the next one.